Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Marsh Parker.
And I'm Jaime Fuego.
And we are here to talk about, in case you couldn't guess, Dr. Sleep. That is the sequel to The Shining, which is actually, this is an adaptation of a book that is the sequel to The Shining, but this is also a tie-in to the movie, the Kubrick movie Shining as well.
Yes, so trying to just figure out how you bridge that gap between being faithful to the Kubrick adaptations and alterations, and still, the spirit of the film, or the book. So, yeah.
So yes, this is one, of course, written by Fuego's favorite.
Yes, Solid King, so long days and pleasant nights for that regard. And interesting in the fact that Mike Flanagan, already adapted Gerald's Game, presumably, as the reports have already jumped out, is working on something else. It's just hush-hush as far as what he's going to be doing next. I'm hoping Doomickey. That would be rad. But, it's... I wish they gave him more time. I guess if I'm going to do overall impressions, that's really more so than anything else, because I borderline love this film, but I wish they could have fleshed it out more. And after watching what he did with Haunting of Hill House, and the fact that he had so much more time to play with characters, motivations, and just stylistic aspects, this, even at like 2.5 hours, this film felt rushed to me. It's weird how that's the way I felt about it, but it still, with some of the big plot points, felt like they were just grazing over certain aspects that, as a book lover, it's, tough in that regard. But Flanagan still really succeeded for the most part, in my estimation. How about Mr. Laird, who has not...
I was going to say ladies first.
I'm just curious, since you haven't read the book, and I know Marcia has.
I don't know. I have kind of mixed feelings. I haven't fully processed it because we come, right back here and record the reviews immediately. So I might have benefited from thinking about it a little bit more, but I will say that my immediate thoughts are I enjoyed it. I didn't get as bored as I do during The Shining. I liked that. Here's something. I liked that it was multiple locations because it felt like a real movie. It felt like a Flanagan movie, too, with its very purposeful, long, slow. He was sort of doing Kubrick in those times, but he didn't dwell on it for shot after shot after shot after shot, which I appreciated. However, I think the movie is not going to be as iconic without that one single location that they could really focus on the way they did in The Shining.
Agreed.
So, I don't know, I have all these feelings about it. It's kind of weird. I did really enjoy it. I thought Ewan McGregor was great. I liked very much the person that got to play Shelley Duvall's role. Was not the biggest fan of the look of the guy they got to do Torrance. But nonetheless, I guess overall I enjoyed it. But I guess I still had a couple of issues. But yeah, overall I enjoyed it.
It's
Marcia.
strange because you and I had so much of a Force Awakens and kind of like the rebooting and the like re-sequel sort of aspect and, recasting people in these iconic roles. And I kind of got a little bit of a vibe from this. I just had to really quickly chime in.
I didn't say anything about Force Awakens. What are you talking about?
Well, the last few reviews that we've done as far as like Dark Fate and
Terminator, that was different.
Yeah, well, similar flavor in the fact that trying to like revisit these franchises that are so iconic.
Yeah, okay. Marcia, what are your thoughts?
All right.
I actually really enjoyed it. I thought the pacing was adequate for what the story was, and it was a good balance between the original Shining and watching this. To me, there was any dull moment wasn't really dull. It was purposeful, like you were saying, so it really helped move the story along. I thought 2.5 hours was enough for this movie because it's a movie. We're not talking about a miniseries. If we're talking about a miniseries, like, yeah, let's do like 9-10 episodes for sure. But we're talking about a movie, and if you're going over 2.5 hours, then you're going to run into the same problem that we ran in with the original Shining. This was, I feel like this affected me a lot more than actually reading the book, because it was a lot more visual and I got to feel it a little bit more. And also, like, the children deaths was hard. It was hard to watch those little babies.
Okay, well, people don't know that there's children dying in the movie, though.
Well, they do if they read the book.
Okay, but there's not that many people that are going to have
But
done
that's part
that.
of the story.
And they see them
But
killing him in the
it's not,
trailer.
there's nothing. What? When do we see that?
Well, they see them like picking him up and torturing him in the trailer.
But still, we don't know that. I'm just saying it's kind of spoilery.
Oh, because it's like the plot.
I didn't know that was going on at all until I watched the movie. So
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, there were a lot of parts in the movie that was a little much for me, but it was very effective, and it's not that it took away from the movie. It just made it a little hard to sit there, and I had to close my eyes a couple times, but I thought they did a fantastic job. I thought it was respectful to the original piece. I thought it was respectful to the books, both the regular Shining and the new one, and we got to see some special appearances from the original Shining, so I was pretty satisfied with it.
So it achieved the balancing act. So
Yeah,
to speak, that they
I
were
thought it
aspiring
was.
For.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Fuego, can you hit the story succinctly for everyone?
Yeah, so we basically, just like in the book, we find out the fact that even after Danny Torrance and Wendy, they get away from the Overlook, there is still like a residual aspect, I guess is the best way to describe it. And so, yeah, they're living in Florida, and he is still seeing a little bit of his, buddy Dick Halloran and stuff, but beyond that, there are still some of the spirits from the Overlook that have like chased him there because of his shine, and it's not going away, and he is doing his best to drown it out, and it's not transpiring. And then fast forward to him all grown up, and that was some of the stuff that I did have a little bit of an issue that I felt like they glossed over. But then, once again, you realize very quickly that he's drinking himself to death just like his dad. There is that parallel as far as like the apple not far and fall from the tree. And we don't have Canny like in the book, but nonetheless you still have the interaction with that small kid and everything, and the girl he hooks up with at the very beginning. But then he relocates, he wants to clean his act up, and that's really when he first encounters it's almost like an earthquake, like aftershock, like jolt of sorts, where he realizes that there is somebody else in a close vicinity that has a similar power to him. And then beyond that, there is a group called the True Knot that feast on this energy from these people who have the shine, and it's much tastier, and it's much more, I guess, satisfying, powerful, whatever you want to describe it as, if they're younger. If there hasn't been any sort of tampering or trying to suppress it, like in Danny's case, because of the fact that he's older and he's tried to drink it away, which you find so much more out about in the book. He uses substances to kind of subside the shine, and that's actually something that wasn't touched upon a supreme amount in the film. I mean, it was hinted upon at least a little bit, but it's Danny and Abra against the True Knot essentially, and that's what we really get to. And it's I mean, lots of revisiting aspects of going back to the spot that has it's a little bit different in the book. So you're laughing at me with good reason.
It's because you've mentioned the book 4 times and you're telling of the story.
I know, and I'm supposed to be
have
talking
such
about
a hard
the film.
time disassociating. It's crazy.
Yeah, my bad.
And it's Abra in the movie. You're saying it Abra because I'm sure that's how you read it, but it's Abra in the movie because Abra Cadabra kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's. I thought the story was solid. Really, I thought to me it was really engaging, and I wanted to know because they did well to split the time between Danny and Abra and the True Knot. So, there was always something to be engaged in, as opposed to in The Shining when it's just the 3 characters and following Danny around on his little tricycle for millions of hours a day in that movie. So I thought the story was really engaging. It made me curious. It made me interested. There's a particular thing that ties, there's a whole reason for the title, which I won't, obviously we won't spoil, but I was deeply interested in that. I felt like, I told Fuego on the way home, I felt like we got short shrifted. I was like, there had to be more of that in the book, right? Because that was really interested, the whole Dr. Sleep of it all.
Yeah, tons more.
I thought that was super interesting to me. No, not too much more in your opinion? No? Mm-hmm. All
Yeah, tons more in the book, and the fact that that's essentially what he does in his redemptive job. You know, he's at this tome where people are, you know, kind of terminal.
I mean, he makes. I'm gonna preference, like, I wasn't a big fan of the book because I felt like he was a little self-indulgent in a lot of areas, and that would be one of them. Where it's like, I actually thought they covered it well. Where it was like, okay, we get the point. He went through a time of his life. He's trying to build himself back up, and doing these things helped build him into the man that he was meant to be versus, you know, an image of his father. And I don't feel like they really needed to spend a lot of time on it because it was just him just kind of revisiting the Shine in a positive way, and which allowed him to handle the upcoming events. And that's kind of why they kept saying, like, you know, this is where I'm supposed to be, this is where you're supposed to be, this is what you need to be doing. And so
yeah, big time they streamlined his work at the medical facility. They streamlined his work with, like, the train and everything that we saw briefly. So,
yeah, I mean, you could spend tons of time on that in a book, but when you're talking about a movie, you want to get to the juicy stuff, and the juicy stuff is with Abra and True Knot. And I actually enjoyed visually experiencing the True Knot, like, visually versus through the book. And maybe I just need to go through the book again, but when I read it through, it didn't affect me as much as it did in the way that Flanagan approached it, and it just was very effective.
So how did you like how the story played out then?
Yeah, I thought they did a great job. I like I said before, that he did a really good job balancing the information for both books in the movie by him not overloading us with the stuff that wasn't essential. Like, he gave us what we needed to know about to get us through the story, and I think the way they bridged everything is what we needed for this movie. It wasn't too much in the weeds, and it wasn't too extravagant that nobody knew what was going on. I felt like they educated the audience enough. Like, it didn't matter if you know, I mean, you're not going to watch this movie without watching The Shining first. I hope not. But even if you didn't, you could still enjoy the movie. Actually.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the big question. You know, can this film exist on its own? And to some degree, it can. It's not going to be as fulfilling or whatever.
Yeah.
But
it can be. But yeah, it's only going to be assisted if you know the history, of course.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, so much so that I appreciated the homages that Flanagan was doing, and this might be a good segue before we hit the acting. Let's just talk about the cinematography, because there were a ton of homages, not only when they're recreating scenes from The Shining, as in literally recreating Danny on his little tricycle going down the hallways and stuff, which felt exactly like, you know, the Kubrick version, but also then later there's a point at which you know, we have a character standing on the stairs holding an axe while another character is slowly creeping up, and the angles they use are literally the exact same angles from when Jack was coming up on Shelley Duvall. And I was so digging it for that. Like, I was like, that's really cool. So, camera-wise, cinematography-wise, I thought it was fantastic. Flanagan never falls short in that part. No. I think everything, he is the kind of person that his eye is such that, you know, he gets the right DOP, and it's such that the way movies should be, right? Every single frame should be able to be its own photograph, really, and stand on its own. And I think that Flanagan really achieves that. So what about you guys as far as camera work?
Oh, it was beautiful. It was beautifully shot, and you hit the nail when you were talking about how, you know, he could slow it down but not stick on it so much that it really made it boring and stagnant. It was exciting to watch. It was suspenseful without, like, having, like, too many jump scares. It was beautiful. It was like watching a masterpiece kind of just unfold upon itself. He was using, kind of like in Haunting of Hill House, he was using the story and the cinematography to help tell that story. It was just it was so good. I love this guy. I would love to see more of his stuff.
Yeah, it was haunting, and I just kept thinking of it as we were watching it, especially when in the initial bit we get the girl who was from Haunting, and she's the first to encounter the True Knot that we see. And then also, just as Marcia implied earlier, and I'm not sure if it's going to make the final cut of this because it was kind of spoilery, but it's a bit in the book where there's a kid with the shine who is a baseball player who encounters the True Knot, and it's a little Jacob Tremblay kid. And it's legitimately one of the most terrifying and unsettling
I knew that face,
scenes.
from My Soul to Keep. And,
Man, it's one of the most unsettling scenes in the entire... And the way he cuts it, it's not graphic as far as gore and stuff goes, but just the look on the faces of the True Knot as they're going at this kid and stuff. And that's really what I find most unsettling, is the fact that they prey upon children because of the fact that they have the strongest essence of the shine. And so for that reason, yeah, that's why it tastes the best. It gives them the most power. They're really essentially like almost like spiritual vampires in some weird regard, as if you can just describe them as such. And so, yeah, Flanagan really put that visually just distinctively and disgustingly. So
There was something that just popped in my head that I thought, it made me giggle because I heard you react to it. There was a line that Danny has at some point in the movie, I'm not going to say what, where he says something, it's like, you have to blank. And I was like, and then I heard Fuego go, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, all right. And I was like, wait, let me think, do they say that in that? Oh yeah, they definitely say that in that. So they definitely do make sure it's in the Kingverse.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the acting, though.
There's a K and an A. Let's just say that.
Let's talk about the acting. I thought, again, Ewan McGregor did a fantastic job. I thought the little girl was great.
Abra,
yeah.
Yeah.
She was great.
She was terrific.
And of course, Rose the Hat. So I don't want to talk about everyone, but you know. So who did you guys like?
I love Rose the Hat. I thought she was spot on, and just like kind of a fun, even though she's a horrible monster thing, like she was kind of cool.
She was a good actress.
Like it was like,
she was fun to watch.
Man, no
she's
wonder
like pretty scary, sexy kind of thing.
Yeah,
Right?
she's badass, and I, to be to have such a strong female villain is just kind of refreshing. It's not like, hey, here's my tits and hey, I got an accent. No, it was like, no, this bitch, she knows.
You could see her pulling off a kick-ass Maleficent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she could really pull that off.
Yeah, but she's badder than Maleficent.
I'm not the biggest Angelina Jolie.
But like,
I'm not talking about Angelina. I'm just saying she could
just like
pull off.
Like
I
she
can
was
see it,
just
man.
a scary,
Yeah,
sexy
100%.
thing that Maleficent would need to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that sort of vibe for sure.
But no, she was amazing. The actress that was playing Shelley Duvall, like the way she was throwing her voice, so she sounded just
so
like
much
her.
like her. Oh,
And,
my God.
she was way prettier than her too, so I appreciated that.
Yeah.
She was.
Yeah.
Sorry, Shelley, but
Well, and also the actor who played Dick, and the way they utilized him.
He's actually on Supergirl. He played Martian Manhunter's father.
He was terrific, and the way that they used him and kind of bridged the gap between the source material and the way he's used and the original film, he's so important for Danny's development and like psyche almost, and
he very much resembles Scatman Crothers too.
Yeah.
So as
So
soon as he
similar.
comes on screen, you know exactly who he is.
no, that's right. I can't do this. I'm bad.
Yeah, careful.
Yeah.
So any other actors that you guys? I mean, obviously you guys like Ewan McGregor.
yeah, Ewan McGregor was perfect for the role. I felt like the casting job on this was just on point. I felt, there wasn't anybody that pulled me out of it.
Yeah. Why are we stepping so far away from the mic, guys?
Lots of the
Look how much room we have.
Yeah, lots of the supporting cast in the True Knot were way better than I was anticipating, and they became more interesting characters. Crow Daddy was not a character I found particularly interesting in the book, and yet
he was engaging,
way more engaging in this, as well as Snakebite, and so
liked her too.
Yeah, she was great, and just the whole like cuts on the cheek stuff and everything, and there's a little bit more of a like relationship kind of thing with her and Rose in the book, which is kind of hot. Anyway, we won't touch upon that too much.
Gee, another book thing that you're upset about? Good Lord, man.
No, I'm not upset about it. I was just like, read the book, but this was such a terrific representation as far as the scripting and
I
the
thought
visual
they were
dynamic,
pretty spot on the major parts of the storyline. Like there was a lot of stuff was like, oh cool, they're hitting on this, they're hitting on this, they're hitting on this. So I thought the choices they made were the right ones.
Yeah.
There
Even
wasn't
the
anything that I was missing.
Yeah, the alterations didn't particularly deter, in my estimation.
I actually
really
like them better.
So let's talk about the sound and the music real quick. The sound design was great. It has to be unnerving and it has to be directional because things are coming from different places at times.
And they started right off the bat.
Yeah, and then there's, so the sound design is wonderful, but the music is really cool because they do use The Shining. It starts, right off in the first opening logo. It's like, boom, 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 boom.
You see it, you remember it.
Oh, damn. Yeah. But what's even cooler is they do direct shot homages again, except, it's funny because CP posted a picture on his Facebook saying, watching this in preparation, and it was a shot I didn't recognize. It was a sweeping shot over the water with a big fall tree in the foreground headed towards the mountain, and I was like,
at the beginning of the film,
no, it's at the end and towards the end when it's at night and it's all snowy, and it does that same exact shot over the water, and the tree passes on the left as it moves towards the mountain. I was like, that's dope. It's literally, that's the opening shot of the original Shining that they did right there. So
that's what I was remembering, is that I knew they did a callback to that.
Yeah, they did. It was later in this movie, but it was so cool, man. I loved, that's the thing, I appreciated the filmmaking of The Shining. I just thought it was slow and boring to me, which pisses everyone off, but the filmmaking's tremendous. True. This is just not boring, and the filmmaking's still tremendous, so that's kind of why I dug it, but so music and everything, sound design made you guys happy?
Yeah, I thought it fit the movie really well, and it set the tone. It did its job. I mean, it was nice to hear things that brought me back to the original, and just kind of getting you ready for the scare, and just kind of my nerves were up the whole time. I'm telling you guys, I was ready for it, and I wasn't at the same time. So I'm happy.
Nice.
Sound and music.
Yeah, I just think that Flanagan visually is terrific, and as far as sound goes, the team that he always assembles is spot on, fantastic. They give the moment of dread. They give just that ominous kind of building aspect that we need in a film like this, with the confrontation imminent, and I mean, fantastic callbacks to the original score from The Shining. So that's what we will.
So finally, it's the effects. There was a fair amount of CG used in this, especially for a particular facet of the movie, and I think it worked well enough, but it was a bit heavy at times. So I don't know if you guys know what I'm referring to, but it's it's reminiscent of Stephen King's The Mist. Because there's a lot of mist action that happens, and it gets a little bit there's stuff leading up to that. There's a bit of transformational CGI going on that I thought was kind of cool.
As far as the sucking in the energy.
No, I think you're talking about something else. Kind of when people are moving on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Without spoiling too much. There's some transformational CGI, which I thought looked really cool on the first person we saw it on, and then it started to get a little more CG.
No idea.
You know what I mean?
As the movie went on.
As the movie went on, right,
yes.
Right. Because they didn't have the time to really focus on the close-ups, and they didn't need the super high detail for all of the other instances and stuff like that. So, so you know what I mean? So the CG brought me out of it just a tiny bit at times. But outside of that, I thought, there is some practical stuff used that does get to me, especially a scene, where I was like, ah! Yeah. But the CG, I don't know. How about you guys?
I mean, I thought it was an interesting take, and it's definitely got to be something really difficult to accomplish. So I do give them props for actually trying it and doing it, and I think they did the best that they can do for what's available to them at this time in this day and age of CGI and everything, and it was kind of fun, but it did kind of bring me back to kind of I don't know, The Mummy or something like that, even I remember, I don't know, I want to say I don't know why I want to say Rose Red, like this really crappy like movie,
Made for TV, Stephen
movie,
King.
like because there's like those moments, but at the same time, like I still enjoyed it for what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why I
Fuego,
want to
your
say
thoughts
Rose
on
Red.
the effects?
Yeah, the effects were. I mean, I point more so to the fact that they went back to the Overlook and the set design and recreating certain scenes and looks and stuff like that. This is a movie that really, aside from maybe a scene or two, it could have pushed a PG-13 in all likelihood. You know, it's not super hard R as far as, you know, the original,
Was this
film
an
was.
R-13?
This was
No.
an R-rated film.
Was it really?
This was an R-rated film, absolutely, yeah. And when you think about the original Shining and Halloran getting killed with the axe and, you know, certain bits of dialogue and stuff like that, this wasn't heavy with, you know, just a rife, nasty gore or anything
but
of that
there's
nature.
there's some
But there's
dead
vi-
nudity.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess now
And
that,
there's some-
now that I put that into proper consideration, the nudity
Yeah.
is the biggest thing that would probably make
Yeah.
this most definitely an R-rated film.
Yeah, and
and
I
we
think
see
there's
our fair
some
share.
really heavy moments
Yeah.
that might
No.
not. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want my kids to see.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Because I think that would really be hard for them to watch.
Well, and just like in Doctor Sleep, there's a couple callbacks. Well, Doctor Sleep, as we're talking Doctor Sleep, the novel, I should specify. There are a couple callbacks to, and then you're laughing, which makes sense. There are a few scenes which, to the bathtub chick, are, you know, very much apparent, and yeah, they kind of just beat a red-headed dead horse with the reoccurrence. So, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's we've been talking for a bit about it, so I think that's gonna pretty much cover all of our non-spoiler thoughts. We're not gonna do a spoiler review, mainly because you know it's already pretty late. It was a 2.5 hour plus movie, so. Let us know what you guys think of the movie if you went and watched it tonight as well. Keep the comments non-spoilery if possible. Otherwise, let us know what you think of it once you do see it. I'm very curious, but that's our opinion. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe to make sure you don't miss future reviews like this going forward. If you guys didn't know, we are currently running a crowdfunding campaign for Dylan's New Nightmare. There's a poster to Fuego's left right there, which is it's a independent, well, obviously independent. It's a fan film, a not-for-profit Freddy Krueger fan film that is a sequel to Wes Craven's New Nightmare. We are trying to raise the money to make this movie proper, so I'll
Check
put
out
that
that
link in the
rack.
description box. Thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you to our patrons for supporting the channel. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm Marshbecker.
Gracias, haben Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.